I'm like right away.
And now we're live. So yeah, we're going to be talking about The Life of Never Letting Go by Patrick Ness. I just forgot its name. And I have some questions here, and the first one was introductions, but we've pretty much already done that. So what was your initial response to the book, and what would you give it out of 5 as a rating? You can, anyone can go.
All right, I'll go. I didn't like it. I was like, this is like the first one I like really didn't like. For some odd reason, it just didn't sit well with me. I don't know why, but I read it super fast, so it was like a quick read, I guess. But I just, after finishing it, I was just like, which is odd because these types of books, like, I'm all about, you know, like the kind of dystopian weird stuff, but it just, I don't know, it just didn't sit right. So I gave it like 2 stars for other reasons.
Wow.
I know, isn't that bad? I'm sorry.
Michaela, you can go next if you like.
Yeah, I actually really liked it. I think when I first started reading it, I probably would have said like 2 stars because it took me a while to get used to the writing style and all that kind of stuff. So initially I was a bit, what the hell is this about? I had absolutely no idea. But I think when I got used to it and got into it a bit more, I did really enjoy it. So I would probably give it 4 stars. It just took me a while to get into it. The first couple of chapters, had I not been reading it for this, I probably would have stopped reading it. So I'm glad I made myself carry on. And when I got about a third of the way through, I kind of got used to everything. And then I really enjoyed it. But initially, it was a bit of a weird read. It's probably the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. I'm kind of in between both of you. I sort of gave it a 3-4 because I read it really quickly as well. And I don't really know what I think of it because there were so many good aspects as well as so many kind of not so good ones. And a lot of the time there were some things that I liked and disliked at the same time, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
The main being the use of the dialect. I think it's like a pet peeve of mine, a bookish peeve. If it's good grammar and stuff, so I found that hard to read, but I also liked it because it was so immersive. So it was very peculiar, I thought.
Yeah, I know what you mean about because they had some like phonetic spelling of certain words, but it wasn't consistent, and it really bothered me as I was reading it because every now and then I just read a word obviously spelled as it would be pronounced, but because it didn't happen all the time, it was really jarring. So every time I read one, it just kind of took me. If I was getting into the swing of reading the book, it took me right back out again. And that I didn't like. But again, it was one of those things. As you read more of it, you kind of got used to it, so you read it a little bit more rather than stopping and trying to pronounce the word in your head that they were saying. You kind of stuck with it. So, yeah, that was another thing I found quite weird, but got less weird, I guess, the more I read it and the more I went on.
Yeah. It was kind of interesting because that, like, totally showed that he was really, like, uneducated and he didn't know how to read or write or whatever, which I thought was, like, interesting because usually books, like, they're uneducated, they, like, still speak as if they were educated, which I thought that was a different spin on it. So it was really frustrating to read that way, but then it was also like a good detail too. So
I don't know whether I should ask Jasmine anything. Oh
there we go.
Oh, that's a good way to say it.
Yeah. It was one of those things that was written very much in the character's head, which made sense because of obviously the storyline, but it was just a very narrow scope then. And if you didn't like the way it was written or you didn't like the voice of the character, you were kind of stuck with it. There was no other perspective and no other way to read it. So I guess if you didn't kind of gel with that style of reading or writing, you're gonna hate it. You know, it's not gonna get any better, I suppose. But I think when I got used to it, I really enjoyed it. It just took me a little while to get going. And like I said, if I hadn't been reading it for this, I probably would have stopped. But I'm glad I did make myself read it because I did really enjoy it.
Yeah. You mentioned before how what annoyed you about it was like inconsistent with dialect. I actually kind of disagree with the fact that I found that better, just because I didn't particularly like it, so I didn't really think about it as being a bit annoying. I just sort of was like having a break from it, and then like come back and have it. Because there was another book I read that was similar to this for another book club. I think it was called After the Snow. I can't remember, but every single word was spelt phonetically.
Oh God.
Incorrect, and I couldn't even read the first chapter. It was it was very frustrating. So I think that way that Ness has balanced it, so he's like sort of taken into consideration that some people don't like that style of writing. He's kind of done that. I thought that was quite well done, but I can see how it could be annoying at the same time.
Yeah.
So yeah, my next question was actually about the dialect, and also the fonts, and about how the noise was sort of shown through the different font. Did you think that was easier to understand, making the noise sort of follow?
See, I had it on a Kindle, so I didn't get that. That must have not come through on my version.
What was it? I missed that. I'm sorry.
The way that the noise, I've got an example. The noise was presented.
Oh no, I didn't have that on mine. Oh wow.
I read it on Kindle too, and it had like some of it.
I didn't get any at all on mine.
Really?
Okay. So well, so did you say you had it, Kira, or not?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, on my Kindle, which I think is dead now. But yeah, it was. There was only like, it wasn't as much as that one, the coward one.
Yeah, that would have been. Yeah.
This is the largest one.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
So it wasn't like huge like that, but it did have some of the chicken scratch stuff. But yeah, I thought that was kind of cool, like the detail of that, to like really explain what was going on in these kids' heads, which like really sucked if you think about it. Like that's awful to think that way and have other people's thoughts going in your mind, and I don't like it.
Jasmine you read it in a paperback, in an actual copy. Did you think it? Because I'm just curious now whether it was different reading the noise and like being able to see it presented and being not, because I found it was a lot easier to understand because it's quite a weird concept and to get over. So did you find it confusing, maybe without or with it? You found it like easier to understand. Okay. Would you have preferred it, Michaela, Kira, that would you have liked to have seen it? Do you think that would have made it easier, or did you get it without it anyway?
I think I got it, like the way he just explained everything. He was really good at it, like when he actually did explain stuff about the story, he was really good at it. Because one thing I just didn't like how I was so, I mean, I don't know, I'll get into it later. But I liked how he definitely explained the noise very well and how like it affected all of their lives and stuff, and I don't know, yeah. So I don't know where I'm going.
I think I know what you mean. It was initially there was a lot of explanation about the noise and how it worked and what it meant for people's day-to-day lives. But one thing that did frustrate me about the book is that there wasn't an awful lot else to go on, and I guess it made sense if you sticking with one character and staying in their head. But there was a lot of kind of hints about where they lived, what had happened, where they come from, and it wasn't until kind of the last third of the book you got any information about it at all. So there was a lot of, I would have preferred a few more bits of information through the book about where they were, where they'd come from, and it just kind of felt like it was all crammed into the end. And then I didn't realise it was a series as well. I was expecting it to kind of finish, and I got to the end and I was thinking, they're going to have to wrap this up pretty quickly. And then there was a cliffhanger, and then I was like, there's another book? I didn't realise this. So I was going through the book thinking, in a minute, we're going to get all the information, and then it was kind of a little bit at the end, and then there's another book to read, and that really threw me because I wasn't expecting it at all. I was expecting like the wrap up and the explanation, and didn't quite get it, I don't think. Yeah.
That's actually touching on my next question, because his Ness. Have any of you read any of his other works?
No, this is the first.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I'm the only one, because I read 2 other books by him, and he does tend to write. He usually writes in the way that he does in this one, with very sort of broken up lines, and he often leaves a lot of the mystery as a mystery right until the end. And I was going to ask whether you found that frustrating or not, or whether it was again more immersive. Any thoughts?
That was really frustrating. Like, I mean, it's kind of fun to be kept in the dark in some books, but this one, it was just such a broad, wide like thing that was going on that I just really wanted to know a little bit more about, so I could really immerse myself into the story. And he just kind of like left it blank, and I was like, I just need to know. So I was like really getting kind of frustrated that I didn't know about it yet, until like we still didn't even know all about it. But I don't know. Sometimes it works for me, like just being kept off in the dark, but this time it just didn't for some reason. But yeah.
I was kind of the same. I mean, I don't like books to necessarily spell everything out. I do like that sometimes you have to,
Right.
you know, fill in the blanks yourself. I mean, I assume that where they're living now is Mars, just because of the references to spaceships and 2 moons and everything. But that was only because I googled how many moons does Mars have. Just something I thought maybe it would have been another planet. So it would have been nice to have some more concrete information, because I'm just kind of going by what I guessed, really. So it would have been nice to have a bit more. I do like having bits where you have to fill in the blanks, but then I do also want something to go on, and for me there wasn't quite enough filling in the blanks. There wasn't quite enough information. But I did like the fact that you had to think about it, because like I said, I don't like to have everything spoon-fed necessarily. But I think there's a balance, and the book it's a bit too much towards one way than the other for me.
Yeah. I didn't actually think of that. I think it probably is Mars, because I just presumed it might have been on just a whole new world. I had no idea where the plots were going. Good on you. I was absolutely clueless. I couldn't guess anything. It was Illinois. Hello?
One of the windows.
Hello.
Hi. I just got home from work, sorry.
Don't worry. We've not been talking for too long, so you've not missed too much. We've just what we discussed. We've discussed the dialect. What we discussed, the mysteries, and then just our initial responses. So, do you want to give us? Well, this is the second time reading it, isn't it, for you?
Yeah, no, it was my reread. I first read it in 2012, so I was 16, I think, when I first read it, and now I'm a lot older, so it was different reading it. But it was so nice, because like when I first read it, I know that some people have trouble reading it the first time because it does start off kind of weird with the weird dialect and everything, and people find it a bit hard to get into, but it's a lot easier this time. And I guess I just enjoyed, because you always find with rereads that you like see different nuances to the characters that you didn't see before and stuff like that. So I liked that.
Okay. Did your any like star rating change with the second time reading it, and what was that?
No, yeah, it stayed the same. It pretty much stayed the same, which was nice, because I always get scared rereading that it's going to go down, but
probably was one of the reasons I haven't reread Harry Potter go down.
Yeah, fair enough.
So what were we just discussing? Yeah, we were just talking about how a lot of the plot in this book is sort of, well, all the information about the world is held until the very end.
Yeah.
We have sort of mixed opinions on whether it was annoying or good. What's your view on that?
I guess this time obviously I wasn't as annoyed because I knew, but I know the first time, I've never minded that much. I know the first time I read it, it didn't bother me. I think because it's just, I read it so quickly the first time because I found it such a quick read once you get into it that I didn't mind. I just think it helped. I kind of just wanted to get to the end, I guess. But I understand how that is annoying. Like, I do get annoyed with it in other books, but this one didn't annoy me. I don't know. I think it depends.
It did make you want to just keep going and keep reading. I read it so fast. It was about maybe probably like a day and a bit.
Yeah, I know. I read all the books really, really fast. I think I read the other two, the sequels, when I was like doing my A-levels, so I didn't have a lot of time to do it, but I still read them so quickly considering like the amount of work I was doing at the time.
Okay, so let's go on to the next question. And that's about the characters. So what did you think of Todd and Viola? I think that's how you say her name. I'm not entirely sure.
I think it's Viola, but I don't know. That's just how I would pronounce it.
I saw Patrick Ness talk, and I think he said it Viola, like that. Yeah.
Okay, because I heard someone say it was Viola, but then I wasn't sure, so I YouTubed it, and the way you pronounce it was Viola, but I was like, I thought that was an instrument.
I said Viola. I thought
Viola when I read it. That's what I thought.
Okay. But yeah, anyway, what did you think of those two characters, and especially Todd's development?
I ship it.
I ship it. I ship it.
Hopefully that ship sails. But I liked her actually. She was like one of the only characters I really like enjoyed, I guess. Well, I know I enjoyed most of the characters, but she was kind of like a nice change, I guess, especially for Todd. Like seeing him change because she was there was kind of interesting to see. You know, like meeting this girl for the first time and not hearing her thoughts, which was crazy for him. But yeah, I liked her. I thought she was really cool and badass. So.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I really liked her as a character. Like you said, it was really sweet to see. I think how the relationship develops, and I think it's one of the most realistic like coupling relationships I've read in quite a long time actually, in like YA, and it was really nice initially to see how they both distrusted each other, and then towards the end how it you know, her presence changes him, because it's something completely different to anything he's ever known, anything he's ever had. And I thought it was really sweet, and it didn't feel forced at all. Like sometimes you have those kind of pairings, like you say, people ship them, and it just feels like they were created for that purpose. Whereas this felt a lot more organic. And yeah, I thought it was really sweet. The ending was like devastating. I don't know how far we're going, like spoiler wise, but it was, yeah, that was, by the end of it, you genuinely believe that these two characters have come all that way together. And it was really sweet. I really loved it. So that was, I think, it's one of my favourite parts of the book actually. That was the pairing between the two of them. So, yeah, loved it.
So did you read their relationship as sort of romantic? Because I personally kind of read it as more sort of brother-sister bond, because I don't know why, but that's how I read it personally. I don't know.
That's how I read it.
It's romantic.
I saw it as like friendship first, obviously.
Yeah.
Friends and they're also, he's like 12 or 13 or whatever, or 14, I don't know. And then the months thing really tripped me out. But yeah, I saw it as like a friendship.
13, 15, something like that.
Yeah, which I mean that's not young at all, but
it's still weird.
I liked it. We became like friends first.
Yeah.
I kind of thought of it in the way both times when, as like I wanted it to happen in the future. Like I was fine with it being friends now because they're still young, but like in the future, that can happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how I feel it.
They can get a dog together.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh god.
The dog thing is one of my questions as well, because it was my favourite, like one of my favourite characters, Manchi. Oh my gosh.
That was awful.
As soon as they mentioned the dog, you just knew it was going to happen. I was like, oh no, I know where this is going, and yeah, oh.
My friend spoiled me for that. Like she didn't spoil me, but I remember talking to her. I was like, I really love Manchi, and she was like, oh no, and I was like, what? And then yeah.
I actually think I can't recall any other book that's made me cry, but I cried at Manchi's death because it was so like, and the way it happened, and that fact you could hear his thoughts all the while.
Yeah, that made me really sad. Like I was in a car driving up a mountain, and I like read it, and I was like, I turned to my cousins, I'm like, guys, like they didn't understand, but it was like. That was like really heart-wrenching how that happened, and
yeah.
I remember when I saw Patrick Ness talk. I saw him talk at an event last year, and he said that he gets like the most hate mail for Manchi's death. Like he mostly gets love mail, but he always gets people being like, "Why did you kill the dog?" Like he still gets it.
That's actually part of my question, because I didn't really understand if there was any purpose in killing Manchi, and I was just wondering if any of you thought any differently, because I felt. Like, it was done really well, and it made it really sad, but I don't know whether, like, he could have just, like, continued to live, or whether that would have caused problems in the rest of the book. I don't really know. Any ideas?
I kind of thought it was, I mean, normally when, you know, the dogs die in, you know, films and books, and I felt the same about this one, it's kind of done, I guess, to show something about the main character. Like, I read it as he almost had to choose between Manchi and Viola, and at the end of the day, he did choose her, so I think that's how I read it. So I think it needed to be done for that purpose, to show how those two are coming together. Doesn't mean I was happy about it, but yeah, I think that's why it was done. It felt necessary. It didn't feel like exploitative, or, you know, sometimes it feels like it's done for cheap emotion. It didn't feel like that to me. I read it as part of kind of his character development, I guess.
Yeah, it was almost like he was like his growing up moment, almost like like letting go of like
the dog.
I don't know, like his old life, maybe, I don't know, but it's a dog.
Yeah, no, Ray's like, man, she was like part of the old life, and then like when he dies, he has to kind of grow up. So I think when I first read it, I kind of saw it more like that this time. When I first read it, I was supposed to show like how dangerous his journey was, or something like that. Like that his dog died and stuff. And it was different when that I thought at first, but like yeah, it was different this time.
Trying to just go through my questions. Yes, so not including like the development or the relationship between the characters. Did you think like just on their own that they were good or bad, or were they frustrating to anyone?
Wait, are you talking about Manchi and Todd, or?
No, as in like just like Todd and Viola like on their own, like not their relationship, like what you thought of their characters just standing.
Todd was annoying. I'm sorry. Yeah. Todd was annoying me really bad. I was like, dude, fuck up. Come on, man. You gotta like fight this out. But I mean, he also is a boy who just was thrown into the situation that he had no idea about. But yeah, I guess he got better as he grew up. But I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of think as well. I mean, Todd was probably because he's quite sheltered. He never, you know, Viola's like the first female he's seen in his entire life. He was, yeah, not. I would have much. If I had to read it from one point of view, I guess I much preferred Viola because she's a lot more resourceful and a lot more drive, a lot more determined. Whereas Todd just seemed very, just kind of going through the motions almost, just you know, moving from A to B, doing what he's told. Whereas she was a lot more driven and determined. You know, she wanted to contact her spaceship or whatever it was. So I enjoyed like Viola as a character more than Todd, but I guess her being there said a lot about him and where he was going. So I definitely prefer Viola over Todd as a character, and I would probably prefer to have read it from her point of view. But I guess it would be a completely different book if you read it from the girl coming into that than the guy who's already there. So those two, I did really like Ben. I know Uncle Ben is a bit of a cliche name, and once he said Uncle Ben, it's like when they mentioned his dog, it's like, oh God, I know where this is going. And I think it does say a lot that I actually cared about as much about when he died as well presumably died, as when the dog died, because normally I care so much more when the dogs die than the people die, like books and films. So I actually, yeah, I liked him as a character. I can't remember what the other uncle was called. That didn't kind of register really, I guess. But yeah, still probably Viola and Ben. I did like them.
I think it's hard, like, because I've read the rest of the series, I find it hard to judge Todd in the first book because I know where he goes. So it's like,
oh no.
So like I find it because I love Todd, but I also know where he goes in the other books. So like when you read back on the first of a series, you're like, oh my God, they're so small. So that's what it was for me. I was like, oh, you're so small and innocent. Like that was what it was for me. But I do remember either way about him when I first read the first book and liking Viola more. And then kind of on, I still love Viola the best. But yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's true. I agree.
Yeah.
What Jasmine said.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. I like the fact that Viola was not a sort of stereotypical sort of girl, and how Todd wasn't either a stereotypical boy or, well, I was about to say man, but he's not a man, not yet. And I really liked Viola because she almost reminded me of sort of like Hermione Granger in her sort of even having like her bag which has everything in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was about to say that. I was like, she's like Hermione.
I liked Todd. Because he does develop so much in the book, it can be kind of frustrating at times by seeing things he does, but then it's kind of like to develop you have to make mistakes and you have to do wrong things, so it was quite nice to watch him do the bad things and do something like act silly, because it's like you know he's going to be a better person afterwards. I liked Hillary. I liked how she was actually introduced almost as a male, and because expected him to be a male, and then it's like, I'm not a male, and yet she still has that power and the strength.
Totally. She reminded me of like one of the, like your cool aunt type thing. And you like just want to grow. Yeah, she was neat.
I hope we see more of her. I'd like, because you don't know what happens to her at the end, do you?
No, there's a lot of people you don't know what happens to at the end. That's why I was so surprised, because I didn't realise it wasn't standalone. I was thinking, I'm going to have to wrap up a lot of threads in the next like 2 or 3 pages.
Yeah, there's 2 more books, and then there's 3 novellas as well.
Oh really? Wow.
You should read them.
But
you should. There's one novella. You should. I don't want to spoil anything, but something that you guys have been talking about actually happens in the next book.
Oh.
This was going to be my last question because we're talking about it. Do you think you're going to go on to read the rest of the series?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to read book 2 and see where it goes. I mean, like I said, for me, it was a bit of a weird read is the only way I can kind of describe it, because it's so different to anything I've read before. But I'm definitely going to pick up the next one, because I can't leave that cliffhanger hanging. I've got to know what happens. So I'm definitely going to read the next book, and I'd like to think I'll finish it, but I guess it would just depend where the next one goes. But for what you've been saying about the stuff in the first book seeming so small now, it sounds like I probably am going to read the whole series.
I might
read the whole series.
I have like so many books lined up right now, but
yeah.
Maybe, I mean, who knows? Maybe one summer I'll just grab it and read it. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely the next book I'm going to read and see where that goes from there. But
the cliffhanger was really, really good. I'll admit Ness
I've got to say though, I didn't quite understand, because I know, Mayor Prentice, or whatever it's called, said that the idea of the army was bigger than the army itself, but the idea that, of however many guys they had managed to ride through all these places and take, Haven just seemed crazy to me. He got to the end and he said there's nobody there, he's taken over just with a couple of guys and some guns. It just, to me, it felt a little bit, it didn't quite feel like it had been explained enough how they managed to do it with just, like, because an idea is one thing, but when they turn up at the biggest settlement they've got, how did they manage to run through with what they had? That kind of was a bit of a sticking point with me. So again, I guess that's book 2, and that's probably why I'm going to read book 2. Find out how it happened.
There are definitely some things I'm still kind of confused about. For example, it's probably just me not being a very attentive reader, but I still don't really understand why they wanted Todd so much. I know it's explained, I know, but it just felt like it just didn't make sense to me, because wasn't it just because they wanted him like for the army and to complete it? But I'm like, it's not that big a deal, is it?
No, I thought by the end of it was more about was it Prentice or whatever his name was, the mayor. I think it was more. It didn't matter in the grand scheme of things, but I think to him it was kind of like a loose thread, and it said more about him being a bit of a sociopath than anything else, that he just couldn't let it go. Same with Aaron as well. I think that it, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't mean anything. It's just one kid. It's nothing at all. He's got what he wants. He's got the army, but they just can't let it go because that's the one thing that's got away from them. And I think it said more about them as characters than anything else. And I think that's why they were so. But like you said, I still don't understand how. I understand why they did it, because they were so determined not to let him get away. But I still don't understand how they managed to do it. Which, again, I guess that's book 2.
Yeah.
I'm presuming that they were going to make that attack anyway to try and take over New Haven. So maybe he, the boy running away, going to where they were aiming for in the first place, kind of made it easier for them to want to get him. But I don't really know. Next question. What did you think of the character Aaron and that sort of subplot that went on? Because I personally really enjoyed Aaron as a character, despite not liking him. I liked him because I didn't like him.
Yeah.
Is it the same?
Well, I thought he was evil and rude and horrible human being, if you can call him that. But he definitely added a lot to the story, as almost growing Todd up really fast, in a sense. He was I don't know. He was definitely key to Todd's transitions throughout the book and his arc and stuff. But I don't like him. But I agree with what you said. Like you like to not like him or something like that. You know, like he was definitely key to the story, which was really done really well. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And that sort of the whole subplot. Did you think that added to this, like the whole plot, like as a whole, or do you think it might have like taken it away or anything? Like, because it wasn't like they were parallel plots. They kind of were slightly different. Do you think that? But did you think it made it better? Sorry, I'm not very good at wording.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, in a sense, yeah. I thought it could have totally been its own little short story too, which kind of would have been interesting to go in more depth about it. But yeah, I mean, it definitely added some spark and intriguingness to the story, I guess. So, I don't know.
Okay. Well, that's all my questions. This always seems to go faster than it is whenever I've been doing it here. It's always gone quicker than we've expected. But if any of you have any like other things to say about the book, like any other thoughts, then please say. Otherwise, we can finish up here. I don't really mind.
The one thing that really kind of bothered me, I guess, a little bit about the story was it made a whole big thing about Aaron still being, not Aaron, Todd still being innocent because he hadn't killed Aaron, and you know, because he didn't kill, he wasn't like the other guys. But there was that whole scene which seemed really out of place to me, where he kills the speckle or whatever they're called, you know, the presumably native Martians, if they are on Mars or wherever they are, and that to me was still him killing something or someone just to prove he could. But the book kind of seemed to suggest at the end he was still innocent because he didn't kill Aaron. It's like, yeah, he didn't kill Aaron, but he still did kill someone. You know what I mean? So that to me really stuck with me at the end. And now, you know, Viola's making out that he's not like them because he didn't actually, you know, pull the trigger or whatever it was with Aaron. But to me, he still had killed. So I didn't buy the fact that he's still the big innocent at the end that they seem to think. I don't know if anybody else felt that, but that whole scene with the spackle just seemed a bit strange to me. Seemed out of place.
I definitely agree with you with that.
I was really surprised he killed it, actually.
Yeah, it just seemed really out of place. There was no need for it, and then the story carried on. It was really weird to me.
Yeah, and they didn't really like touch on it. I felt like after.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, like he did kill something, which is taking like a life, even though it's not like a human life, I guess. But I don't know. Yeah, it kind of shocked me actually. Like he didn't stop from killing the thing, but I guess that's how he was trained to kill these things, because he was lied to. But I don't know. I kind of wish he didn't kill it because I kind of felt bad for the thing.
Yeah.
I
know that there's.
Sorry, you go.
Carry on. No, I was just saying. I know that the spackle, humans' relationships and all that stuff. I think it's explained a lot more in book 2, and you get a lot more about the spackle in book 2, and I think it helps put that in perspective a bit more, I guess. I agree that it was out of place and stuff, but I think that it doesn't, in the first book, it doesn't exactly explain like the relationship and everything, whereas in book 2, I think it goes into it a bit deeper. For sure, I'm not saying like your comment's completely valid, but I think that some things in book 1 probably should have been explained in book 1 as opposed to in book 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, that probably would have made things a bit clearer. But I personally took that scene as sort of just emphasizing how much of Todd's information, like everything he's learned through his childhood, is like so false, and that how scary that is to him, because everything he's ever been told is like turned out to be a lie. And so I think, well, I personally read it as Todd trying to get all these emotions about like all the lies and everything from his childhood out, and it's just sort of like he's focused all that anger on that spackle, and that's how I read it. But yeah, I do agree it's kind of weird, so I'll have to read book 2 for that.
Yeah.
Taking his anger out on a tree or something.
Yeah, because they made a big thing about saying that it was scared of him, and he knew it was scared of him, and he still went after it, which to me yeah, like I said, it just seemed very, very strange. And then at the end to kind of imply he's still innocent because he didn't kill Aaron, it's like, well, he still killed something, and it was something that was scared of him, and it's something that he didn't need to kill. So as far as I read it, he had killed in that book, and maybe again it's something that's explained in book 2, but to me it just seemed, and like you say, because it wasn't touched on again, it just seemed a bit like it should have been cut in the edit, maybe, I don't know. But maybe again this is something that in book 2, when you've got more information, it would make sense. But to me it was just a bit odd, I guess.
So I'm quite excited to read the next one now, because it definitely sort of it did have such a great build up, so it probably is going to go, it's going to take it's a very different direction, I think, because it ended with what it ended with.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we've covered everything, and lots of time. Okay, it's 1:45, that's all right. So yeah, I'll stop the broadcast. Yeah,